Mr. Zuckerberg's grants. The CTCL started to reach out to Wisconsin as early as April of 2020. By May, they had reached out directly to the mayor of Racine, and they told him, we will give you a $100,000 grant. That at the time, based on previous 990 filings, would be about 10% of their entire annual budget. And they told him, you are to keep 60,000 of these funds. Then you're to reach out to the mayor of Green Bay, the mayor of Kenosha, the mayor of Milwaukee.
Welcome back to Talking Racine. Mr. George Myers on my left.
Good morning.
And Jim Spodek, our producer and chief investigator.
Yeah.
I'm Dr. Ken Jorgen. And we're going to show a little bit of a clip here, kind of kick things off, then we're going to make a few comments about it. This is a gentleman who is discussing the recent election and some of the problems that have surfaced, some of the questions that have arisen, and it's interesting.
Well, it's in Madison.
Right.
It's taking place in Madison, and it's taking place at the hearing with regards to the November 3rd election. They're investigating.
Now, is he a representative on this lawsuit?
He's one of the attorneys.
He's one of the attorneys?
Yeah.
Well, go ahead and play it and let people see what he's got.
My name is Phil Klein. I am the director of the Amistad Project for the Thomas More Society out of Chicago, which has been concerned about election integrity for 2 years now. And additionally, I'm former Attorney General of Kansas, a former state legislator, and a former district attorney, and currently serving as assistant professor of law at Liberty University School of Law. And I appreciate your time and interest in this proceeding. From where we sit, we witnessed an unprecedented and coordinated infusion of private funds, as well as a private-public partnership in all swing states to improperly and unlawfully impact the result of the 2020 presidential election. Let me give you examples of the flow of Mr. Zuckerberg's money, and then I'm going to back up to some more evidence. And these are through admissions of the Center for Tech and Civic Life that he poured the money into. And there's a flaw here, by the way, a flaw in that they are a private organization, so they're not subject, like you are, to freedom of information requests, to demands for them to open up their books, or any transparency whatsoever. And so the information I am providing you is what we've been able to scratch and claw and obtain. Mr. Zuckerberg's grants. The CTCL started to reach out to Wisconsin as early as April of 2020. By May, they had reached out directly to the mayor of Racine, and they told him, we will give you a $100,000 grant. That at the time, based on previous 990 filings, would be about 10% of their entire annual budget. And they told him, you are to keep 60,000 of these funds. Then you're to reach out to the mayor of Green Bay, the mayor of Kenosha, the mayor of Milwaukee, and I'm forgetting the fifth city right now. I'm getting word of mouth. You guys know about this. And so there were 5. And you're to give them $10,000 so that they can prepare a Wisconsin-safe election plan. In other words, these 5 cities preparing their own Wisconsin state election plan without any coordination, cooperation, or involvement of the rest of Wisconsin. So they started to prepare this plan to receive additional funds from the Center for Tech and Civic Life, which, again, Mark Zuckerberg is not given to, but it's obvious that the pipeline was going to be opened because they were asking people to obtain funds they did not yet have. Through that, your cities prepared this election plan. Within that plan, they established the provision of drop boxes. Now, it's mighty interesting in that the chain of custody of the ballot is one of the prime considerations in any state law or regulation that ensures the protection and accuracy of the vote. You must maintain a chain of custody of the ballot. If you look at every one of your laws, you will see that focus as vitally important in the application of that law. Yet where is your chain of custody on the millions of ballots that were placed in drop boxes? Where is the video? Where are the logs that show who picked them up and where they took them and what time they were picked up and what time they arrived? To act consistent with your laws, they should have had a 2-person per key system. Where is your chain of custody?
So Racine gets a more important place on the stage.
Yeah, it's, I don't know about you, but my chest is swelling with pride. Knowing that our mayor, our esteemed mayor, is
We were brought up. We now have national attention. You know, people will be watching this thing all over the country.
Yeah. Well, we brought this up for the last couple of weeks, and we asked, where's that $1 million going? And this was where that $1 million from Mark Zuckerberg, Facebook fame, pumped into Racine. And now we see that Corey Mason is basically the ringleader.
Isn't that amazing?
Yeah, that is amazing.
Well, there's a fair amount of money that came in from somewhere. I mean, we've talked before about the Get Out the Vote bus that nobody has seen.
Right.
That was like in the neighborhood of, what was 230 grand or something?
Something like that, yeah.
Yeah.
So this attorney is, if you go into it deep enough, and it was probably a half an hour, but he's also asking for an audit. He's asking for an audit. Where is this money? And how is that money brought into the election system? And it was illegal, but they all seem to have worked with it, including the Republicans, because the Republicans, when you dig in a little deeper, they brought up the fact that there's a letter from Voss and Fitzgerald to Madison stating we don't particularly care for this voting in the park, but you can use drop boxes. Well, drop boxes are the same thing that he's bringing up and saying, hey, you've never okayed them through the legislature.
They were essentially illegal.
Illegal.
Yeah.
That was the whole thing. All those drop boxes were essentially contrary to the way the state legislature had set up the procedures, so they were all illegal.
Yeah, but they're both sides of the aisle.
And our mayor was right at the center of
he was the
getting the corruption going.
He's like the Godfather.
Yeah.
I listened years ago to a record album. It was called Bipartisan Treason. And I think that's a term that really has a way of coming back. I mean, these two main parties have just done terrible damage to our whole system of government, and that's really the primary thing that needs to be brought to a conclusion.
And I just want to say, in that hearing, when this stuff was brought forth, I mean, the Democrats walked out, and the Republicans actually had no idea what was going on. They really didn't, and it was.
You're talking about they knew what was happening when they were walking out, but as the hearing went on, you found out they didn't really know.
No.
What were we holding the hearing for?
Yeah, they had no idea what they were even there for. I mean, they couldn't really comprehend what was being said to them. And
one of the legislators actually asked that question. She said, "Well, if we can't do anything, because somebody said, well, we can't do anything. They didn't know anything about the electors. I don't want to get too much of that detail." But he said, "Then why are we here?
Yeah,
why are we having this hearing?"
It's sad where we're at. The way it's represented.
People don't understand the government. They don't understand the Constitution and some of the things that are there. And when someone like Corey Mason comes along and it is underneath all that, and people around him don't understand how it's supposed to work, they apparently did not understand the simple concept that the state legislature sets up the rules for how the presidential electors get appointed. And they didn't understand that concept.
No.
And but it was set up, and there was a certain way it had to be done, like this attorney pointed out, and your ballot had to be given to a person called a clerk, not a box. And he points out a box is not a person.
Right.
I don't know if he.
I didn't put that on there.
Yeah,
but they brought Racine up.
Draw a little smiley face.
But the point is that Corey Mason gets involved, and how did he get the money? How is he the centerpiece for all these, Madison and Milwaukee and Kenosha and Green Bay? Wow, man.
Yeah, well, my chest is swelling with pride.
Yeah.
Well, let's come back to that later. I mean, we could get into the deep weeds.
Well, we're not gonna. That was it. But here it is. When you look at this, and Corey was the focus really of that Zuckerberg money.
Yeah.
And we asked that.
And we were for two prior
2 prior weeks.
shows we had asked about this.
So
this
we're
may
going to
not.
follow that lawsuit and find out where it goes.
And what we're saying, what we're all in agreement on, is that the electoral system in this country, the method by which we hold elections, is deeply in need of reform.
Oh, wow.
And it's deeply in need of being cleaned up.
Yeah.
And it has been for, what did we decide earlier? 220 years?
Yeah. Well,
Out of the 230,
yeah.
220, it's
After
probably been a
the
mess.
first 12 years, there was when there became parties between Jefferson and Adams. That's when the political party started,
Yeah.
and ever since then, it's probably been a problem. Yeah.
So
I-
it's gone slowly downhill on that.
Just get educated.
Hopefully we're at the bottom of the hill and we'll start over.
Right.
In the meantime, here in Racine, boy, things are going great downtown, according to the last report here. You know,
Right. Well, there's 2 reports out of it. Well, 2 articles written in Racine. One was that the small businesses have been doing great down there. You know, in
That's
this
good
pandemic.
news. That's
It is.
great. It's wonderful.
It's great
Yeah.
if they really are. And sometimes I really question the DRC, which is, you know, their organization is to pump it up. You know, make downtown a good, vibrant business community.
Mm-hmm.
I understand that. Sometimes I wonder, though, when you have one article that says, you know, they've been the best weekend. Black Friday they've had, and then you get the next one that comes up that restaurants and bars and businesses can't make it at 25% of occupancy that the city puts as established, and they've gone through a number of different owners, and they blame the city.
well, there's a lot of people, that are in danger
Yeah.
of losing their business.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And it's these restrictions that are laid upon the city with this COVID. Now, you don't have it. Even one brings up, says, you know, our customers are leaving Racine, going out to other venues in the outlying areas to participate in restaurants, bars, and different activities. And, I mean, that's hurting them, and it shouldn't. I mean, so I go back to the question is, where's the DRC, where's RAMAC? You know, where are these organizations? They should be fighting this lockdown and asking some real hard questions. You know, our businesses are dying, and yet you're laying on these heavy-duty restrictions at 25% of occupancy. How
Well, they should be working hard to come up with a resolution.
Absolutely.
You know, I mean, they're just kind of like ignoring it.
Yeah.
They're not really presenting any real leadership to the business community that I can
No.
see.
Well, there's this consideration that they are contributing to this growth in the number of people that have contracted this virus. And if they're going to argue, they need to come out and just bring out the truth about whether it has anything to do with downtown.
Yeah, they don't
Racine.
have the numbers.
They,
I
they,
think
cer-
brought
they certainly have. We've seen what they did with the schools, and the schools certainly have little or nothing to do with this spread of this virus. But and I don't know that downtown does either. You know, somewhere along the line, we've got to get through it, and to blame it on the businesses and they're causing it. That's something that they, like you say, the Downtown Racine Corporation, DRC, needs to come up and start defending them, because otherwise we're going to have a whole bunch of empty businesses in another year. And
Well, we got a whole bunch already.
Yeah, we got a bunch
The
now.
problem is we're going to have a whole bunch
bunch
more.
more,
Yeah,
yeah.
I mean, we've gone through downtown Racine and counted up the empty buildings, and it's frightening.
Is it really? I
Oh,
haven't-
yeah.
haven't-
staggering. Yeah, in Racine. And,
You know, why do we do that? Why don't we go do a man on the street thing? We'll go and interview some business owners and see what exactly they have to say. I don't trust this report. You know that things are going great down there. I'm
Yeah.
not buying that.
I mean, I can't find that. When I read it, I'm thinking, 60% of their best small business Saturdays.
Well, now just one business that, again, I got this from the Journal-Times. I'm presuming it's right, and that was Dimples. What they had experienced was, instead of having a huge spike on Black Friday, it was kind of a little better.
Drifted.
But when you took in the Sunday, which was way above what normally is after Black Friday, and the following Monday, when you took all those days into account, they came out about the same. So it was halfway decent. And I would attribute to that to some of them are just loyal shoppers. Hey, I'm going to make sure I get down to Dimples. I'm going to get down to downtown.
No, there are good.
Yeah, because I want to make sure they get a little business, and I'll skip my online shopping. I'm going to go down there and buy something. So that is an example of where they did have a good weekend, Thanksgiving weekend, but Whether that is across the board or not, I don't know. I'm just giving you an example how one of them worked, and still, in the long run, if these other, that's just one. That weekend is an isolated incident, so to speak. If the year, if they're going to try and continue on through the rest of the year and on to next year with this closed down type of situation, they could be into a lot of problems.
Well, to get to 60%, you only need to talk to 5 people.
Right, there you go.
Now, how representative is that?
Yeah.
We don't know how many people they talk to here.
Yeah.
I mean, you talk to 5 people, if 3 of them say things are great, that's 60%. That sounds impressive.
I got a question, though.
What's that?
We have had a lot of contact from people who have said, my water bill's up. I've got repairs on my building. I've got people run around having my buildings. Yeah. I mean, this revenue gathering that's happening in the city of Racine. I mean, we've had a lot of people concerned about that. They're saying, hey, this is costing us more to live in the city of Racine over and above our taxes and the other things that we've had to pay for in the past. And it seems to me is what we're getting is that there's more of this revenue extraction.
Revenue harvesting. Well, you know what? All of these things that they got the tax rate up to the maximum.
Right.
And they keep raising the fees and taking some things off of the tax rolls and making it an independent collection, and then that frees the taxes up for other purposes, like a bloated staff for the mayor. But they've been doing this thing for years. They're saying, the budget is it's such a struggle. We need more money. We need more money. We can do this. We can shift this. We can make this happen. We can impose this new fee, and then we could start getting things under control. Well, they've been saying that for decades, and things aren't getting under control.
Well, and I think this administration now, I think, has ramped it up. I mean, we've had this in the past, but not to the degree it is now. I mean, we're getting people calling about water bills or emailing us about water bills.
Well, those are the fees.
Yeah.
That's a way to circumvent the tax levy.
And what was the term he used?
Oh, tax farming? Yeah, that was not my term, but I think it's a great term.
Yeah.
Somebody came up with a good one there. I think it was Tim Elmer, but I'm not sure.
Yeah.
He might have gotten it from somebody else. And it's absolutely true, because the taxpayers are the only crop,
Yeah.
So you taxpayers out there, you got to start putting out more fruits and vegetables in the form of taxation.
Yeah, and particularly since there's fewer and fewer people. I mean, I don't think we've had a single increase in population since 1970. I think was our peak, 1975, that particular decade, that census. And since then, it's come down to smaller or lesser degrees.
Okay, so let's just a quick one. Let's just take these businesses, for instance, and let's lock down. And let's say we lose 10% of those businesses. We lose those businesses, those buildings go empty, or maybe saying at some point, that tax base is going to start to shrink. Who covers the extra money that's going to cost to run in that city?
What all the taxpayers do. See,
the
city is not limited by its tax base. It's limited by a certain quantity, a certain amount, 56 million, whatever it is. And if there's more taxpayers, then everybody pays a little less. If there's less taxpayers, they don't have to drop their levy. That kind of stays steady. So if there's fewer taxpayers, more people are chipping in. The thing is, what happens when these businesses go empty? They don't necessarily lose revenue on that, because they still are taxing that empty building the same way, So it's the owner of the building that really gets socked in, and if it goes into foreclosure, like some of them have, then the county has to start picking up, and then.
But there's a reason for every county resident to be concerned with what's going on in Racine. This is the largest population center, but it's also the location where there are the most empty and vacant buildings.
Right.
That nobody is paying taxes on, so that burden falls on everybody in the county.
The county treasurer picks that up. If a building paying, let's say, $10,000 a year in taxes goes empty and can't pay it and goes vacant, the county will pay the $10,000 to the city of Racine, and then they have to pick it up.
Right.
Through their tax.
So the city of Racine kind of rides on the coattails of the county.
When it comes to foreclosed properties,
at this point,
empty properties that are going into foreclosure. I talked to the county treasurer. I said, why don't you foreclose on the darn things, and then you don't have to pay taxes on it at least. you know. But he felt he was doing better. He
Well-
doesn't want to become a landlord. He doesn't want to have to run an empty property and worry about the upkeep on it.
Well, this is one very, very strong reason why everybody in the county should be concerned about
Absolutely.
what's going on in the city of
Yep.
Racine.
Yep.
You know?
So, I mean, I know that, you know, when you get into, you talk to county representatives, they look at it, well, Racine's that's an issue all its own.
Yeah.
Well, that issue has spilled over into the county, and it's costing the county a lot of money. And because I personally think it's poorly run. You don't have any revenue coming in. You got revenue that's been extracted, but as that revenue base shrinks, you've got to pull more. And they're not penalized. The city of Racine is not penalized
No.
because the county covers that.
The
that
county gets
taxes.
that. The county.
So somebody in Sturtevant is paying for taxes that are delinquent or not paid for in the city of Racine.
And that should be a stopgap measure. I can understand why that was put into place, but I think it's being abused at this point.
And you don't have to be good. You don't have to be a good manager.
Now, when times are reasonable, and I'm going back to Betty Majeski, which would be 2 treasurers ago, she had mentioned to me as a part of the Taxpayers Association that she is the only department in the county that makes money. So what happens because when they take over and pay the city those taxes, they now collect the tax plus that interest.
Right.
That's 18% interest. So if things are reasonable and people are managing to rescue the property and they can sell them and get those taxes back, she was making money.
Right.
But my goodness, that was 20, 30 years ago.
Yeah.
As things get worse, eventually it's going to cave in on them. And I see some of these properties, they're behind 20, 30 years on taxes. It's up to the tax burden now is greater than the tax delinquency is greater than the value of the property. Now push is coming to shove because you can't sell the property anymore, but you're paying the city this money every time, and you're not collecting anything
Right.
from the owner. You're not getting a penny out
And
of
you're
it.
in this catch-22 because you
Yeah.
don't want to foreclose and take that property because you don't know what to do with it.
That's
so
right.
now you've got a delinquent property. You got a property that's probably in poor condition, and it's way over.
He doesn't want to just start
Yeah.
tearing them all down. That
Right.
gets really expensive. And now he's responsible for anything that goes on there.
So you think we're hitting that point where we're starting to get this?
Well, it could really implode on the county treasurer and the county, and I don't know where they sit on that. I don't think they are as good a shape as they were certainly when Betty Majeski was doing that.
Right, well,
Because we just know there's more boarded up properties now. There's fewer people.
Where I'm going to go back to is again, it's poor management in the city of Racine. There's been poor management. They've got
Horrible management
You don't
in the
bring
city
you
of
don't bring
Racine.
business. If you brought a business in there, with all the things that are being closed down now with these businesses and are struggling, I'm a business owner. And I'm going to say, gee, I want to run to Racine and go into the same group that these poor souls are in.
It's kind of like you're checking into prison.
Kinda.
You come in here to open up a business. They take all your assets, put them in an envelope, that they have control over, and you get a uniform to wear, and you get a drop box where you're supposed to send your taxes.
There's a guy that came from Kenosha, and all of a sudden he had all these had tenants in the building. He bought it there. He was going to expand.
Jeff Nelson, you're talking about?
Yeah. Yeah, I remember, and now all of a sudden, all their tenants they declared were there illegitimately. They didn't have the proper permits to
Right.
be operating.
Right.
So now he had to, in order to get the permit, now he had to do a whole bunch of stuff, improvements on the buildings, and it was going to be cheaper to evict all the tenants. So now instead of having a little cash flow when he gets this building, he's got zero.
Yeah.
I mean,
that's great.
it's just very, very. They just got to quit treating business like they're part of a social program.
Yeah.
They ultimately become that because they provide jobs for people, and that allows those people to go out and create lives and that type of stuff. So they do become part of the social program, but you can't force it upon them through governmental activities. You just have to do it through a free market, free business type of atmosphere, and that's what the city doesn't understand.
And here's the other thing they don't understand. This lockdown is actually sending messages out to these other businesses that are saying, whoa, I'm just glad I'm not in Racine. That's
Yeah.
what's being said.
Yeah, that's true.
I believe that, and and that's that's this
So you're
Dottie
compounding the
Bowersox
problem.
thing, Corey
Yeah.
Mason thing again, you know.
But you're compounding that problem with
You are.
empty buildings, delinquent taxes, all the rest.
Yeah, but-
Instead of saying, "Hey, welcome to Racine. We're going to make sure that your business flourishes here. We're going to take. You're only going to get 25% of your occupancy is going to be able to come into your property or your business."
Well, yeah,
That isn't gonna
Well,
fly.
how about the guy who's sitting there thinking, if I can just survive,
That's how they're. This
you know, maybe at the end I'll be the last restaurant in town.
I guess if that's your thought process, that's a different one.
That doesn't strike me as a good strategy.
No, that sounds like a good business plan.
No, it just struck me as what else you got here? What else can you hang your hat on?
And I think this is where we're at. Well, anyway, it's just. It's a shame. It's a shame, and there's some good businesses in Racine, and and I guess people if they can get down and shop and participate in some of these businesses and
well,
please
taking
do
over to the political thing. Remember, ultimately, it is the Common Council that controls all this.
Yeah.
The mayor sort of does it, but the only reason he's doing it right now is because you have mostly bobbleheads on the council, and right now.
Yeah, but he worked hard to get those bobbleheads.
Yeah, he's a hard
Well,
worker.
yeah,
He put a lot of effort into that.
But the nomination papers are being circulated by the potential candidates, and elections coming up in April. And folks,
You got a couple weeks to go to get your signatures in if you want to run for office.
That's right, and also when it comes to that, start looking for some candidates. Look for some people that are potential aldermen that we can get them in there, and where they're going to make some changes. We don't need people necessarily coming in there with an agenda. Just with some independent thinking. Let's get rid of the bobbleheads. Let's
willing
get
to
some
do the
people
work, willing to look at the issues.
Exactly.
And listen
we'll look
to
at
your
the issues and
constituents.
figure out what is really the best way for the government to behave in this particular type of a situation.
Well, we got to get out of this mentality of the local government is running the city.
Yeah,
Oh,
absolutely.
That is just poisonous. I've always said they shouldn't be running the city. They should be making sure the city runs. And you do that by treating your businesses fairly, by treating your taxpayers fairly. Well, we got to go. Our time is up. So it's been fun talking to you. Come back and see us next week. We appreciate your company.